All right, welcome to this Facebook Live. And in this Facebook Live, we are going to be using the Coach's Eye app to teach you three things. So there are really three things that I want you to get out of this. Number one, how to set a line for your dog. Number two, when exactly do you need to set that line? When's the best time for you and your dog? Number three, how contact obstacle performance can affect your dog's lines, because that's something that I'm seeing a lot in people's videos right now. So first, I'm a simple man, and I'd like a simple explanation. Let's define what a line is. And I'm going to say that a line is the path your dog takes around the course. That's it. There's nothing complicated about it. So next time you hear people talking about it, especially for you beginners, now you know it's just a path that your dog is going to take around a course. So now it's pop quiz time. Which line do you want your dog to take in agility? Because you're going to hear all of these words used right before the word line. Do you want your dog to take A, the shortest line, B, the longest line, C, the smoothest line, D, the fastest line, or E, the straightest line? I'm going to take just a few seconds here. Go ahead and type in your responses. You can just, however you want to do it. You can give us just a letter. You can say shortest, longest, smoothest, fastest, straightest, whatever you think. I kind of want to get a straw poll here and see what people think the answer to this is. Which line is the one that you want your dog to take in agility? So we're just going to take a few seconds here. Hello to everyone just joining. Fortunately for you, I sprung a pop quiz on everybody. We had some technical difficulties, and we're going to let people catch up a little bit here. All right, I think it's answer time. So the answer is, I want the fastest line possible. That's going to be letter D. Not the shortest, obviously not the longest, not the roundest, or anything like that. I do usually want the straightest, but the straightest is not always the fastest. Agility is a time sport, so when you talk about your dog's path around a course, you want the shortest time possible. That's what's going to give you a really great performance. If you're around me a lot, if you train with me a lot, you're going to hear me say things like, or if you see me at a trial, you're going to hear me say things like, I should have tried something else to straighten out that line, all right, to make that line better, to get my dog through that part of the course a little bit faster. So I talk a lot about straightening out lines. You know, get ahead of your dog, you can really straighten out that line. If you do this maneuver, blind cross instead of a rear cross maybe here, you can really straighten out that line. And that's what that means. Okay, we're done with the quizzes now. The next thing I wanted to show you guys was this dog walk entry. And here we have dogs coming at it. This jumps about 18 feet. And if you take a look here, okay, I'm hearing that our sound is a little bit soft, so I'm going to try and make it a little bit louder here. So what I've got here for these dogs is a straight on approach to the dog walk. And it doesn't have to be the dog walk. It can be any contact, it can be any tunnel. But generally you want to straighten out the approach as much as possible to maintain your dog's speed. Okay, this is a pro tip. So whether it's a straight tunnel or a dog walk, you really want them hitting it straight. If your dog hits them crooked, they'll usually go slower because they have to adjust their stride to make sure they don't fall off. Or even when they're going in a straight tunnel, if they're coming at it from an angle, they're going to bank off the side. They have to change their striding because they're not able to just run right through and keep all of their speed. If they take it straight on, they can maintain all of their speed and just rip right through this. This does not actually apply to weave poles. What about weave poles? Well, it helps a little bit to straighten out your dog, but not really that much. And that's because your dog's speed drops a lot to do the physical act of weaving. It doesn't matter if your dog is super fast or super slow. They have to wrap and bend themselves around that first pole, and they have to really slow down a lot to do that. Just how much are we talking about? Well, let's take a look first at the dog walk, right? The fastest dogs in the world with running contacts can do a dog walk consistently in about 1.4 seconds. When you calculate the length of the dog walk, right, which is, I believe is, you know, I'm not even going to try the math here because I already did it in advance. It's 8.5 yards per second. They are literally sprinting over those three planks, 8.5 yards per second. The weave pulls, however, the fastest dogs that I've timed, which are border collies on turf, straight exit, straight entry, are about 2.4 seconds to do these pulls, 12 pulls. That's about 3 yards per second. So you can see the dog walk, the dogs are going almost 3 times faster than on the weave pulls, right? So that means if I get a straight approach on the dog walk and my dog keeps 100% of their speed, they're going to be going very close to 9 yards per second. But if I straighten up their approach on the weave poles, right, what's the fastest they can possibly go? Well, it's like 3 yards per second. So it's a big deal for your contacts and your straight tunnels. It's much less of a big deal for your weave poles. Of course, that's just for time. If you need to straighten out your dog's approach to get an easier entry on the weave poles, that's totally fine. You're going to lose a little bit of time, but it's not going to be too much. Okay. Oh, one other thing that I wanted to say here is I know that a lot of people get worried about these approaches here. Usually 90-degree approach, you're able to teach the dog to square themselves up for the dog walk, the teeter. I especially recommend it for large breeds on the teeter. The one that I'm really afraid of, and I think most running contact people are afraid of, and we actually have to spend a little bit of time to train, is when your dog gets these 30 to 45-degree approaches. Because those approaches to the dog look like, it's straight enough, where they don't attempt to adjust their stride. And that's where you have the accidents and they slip off. Their momentum is carrying them to the right. They stumble. And that's why I don't like to see those entries. So for me personally, I'd rather see this 90-degree entry than some kind of soft 30 to 45-degree entry. So I'm always going to see what I can do to kind of help my dog adjust her stride. And the best way to do that, of course, is with training. All right. So there's a difference I want to say here, and you need to think about this from your own dog's perspective. There's a difference here between large dogs and small dogs. Small dogs have much more of an ability to change their angle. So let's zoom in here, and I'm sorry, I'm working on a cell phone because something happened with our iPad. Sarah wasn't able to get it to work. And so we see this dog here, and this dog is going to have to land straight and then turn. Maybe you get some kind of a curvy turn like this. A smaller dog is going to be able to not have to go straight quite as much, right? So their curve may be something like this, where they really can flatten it out. So as a large dog handler, I know since my dog is hitting over here, they're going to have to gather themselves up, and even though it looks 90 degrees, the approach is really going to be straight on. But a small dog person is going to realize, well, my dog is actually going to land way back here, and now they've got this slicey angle, and that's just a terrible approach. My dog is much more likely to slip, and that's why two different sized dogs, their handlers can look at this and say, this is a challenge that concerns me. Someone else will look at it and say, you know, I'm not really too concerned about this approach. It's very dog specific, and you'll learn with experience where your dog falls in those categories. All right, so the next thing I want to do is figure out how to define your dog's line. Not my dogs, not your instructor dogs, but your dogs. And you have to know the angle at which your dog takes an obstacle. That's really important. So we're going to scroll through here. I've got a 2-jump setup here, and you can see these are two different views here. We're going to look at this first dog here, and this dog is taking it the classic way, right? Straight ahead, perpendicular to the jump. A lot of times in agility, when we're walking a course, we imagine the dog taking the jump this way, squarely in the middle. And there are some dogs that do that. They actually square up quite a bit. Okay, so over here on this side, we have a dog slicing, and so their landing point is going to be very different. If I zoom out here, and I think, well, what is my dog's line through these 2 jumps? For this dog, who's perpendicular, it's obviously going to be like this. But if we take a look here, let me see if I can do this. I can't get it perfectly on the dog, but I'm going to keep the same angle here. You can see that the dog's line to infinity is not through both jumps. It's this way, and then somewhere the dog is going to have to turn and go this way, right? So if I drew a line of the actual path, it's going to look kind of like this. And you see the difference here. So the angle matters very much. And again, size of the dog matters. If you have a small dog, even at an angle, the path is going to look more like this. If you have a bigger dog, especially a 24-inch dog, and your dog's maybe 23 inches at the shoulder, they're going to look more like this. Okay, so those are the two different paths that you can have, and whether you're big or small, it's going to affect what you see. All right, now we're going to take a look at one of my runs with Gitchy from this year's AKC World Team Tryouts. So all of these courses are at 24 inches. I think this was her clean run, one of her clean runs, and so this one I think got her third place. Was a tough course. And so we're going to take a look at a couple of different spots here. And we've got her lined up 1 and 2 in a straight line, slight turn to the yellow tunnel here. That's the lead out pivot. But when we are looking at our dogs, especially in the video, let's go back to our questions. What are the things I wanted you to learn? We're going to really look at the first two here. How do you set a line for your dog? And when do you need to set that line? So here, the dog is exiting the tunnel, and as soon as the dog is exiting, the line should already be set, right? The line is the path the dog is going to take to the next obstacle, which is this jump. Okay, so have I set the line? I have, because I know that this leaning back and this stopped motion by the handler cues strong deceleration. And so for me, I can look at this and know that I intend for her to do a wrap this way. Okay, if I were still running forward, I would have set the correct line, but I wouldn't be in such good position for the next obstacle. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. We're going to scroll through here, and now she has taken off. So at the end of tunnels, by the time your dog is peeking out, the line should already be set. Now on this wrap, the dog knows that they're taking this jump. Okay, Gitchy knows this jump is next. She knew that before she exited the tunnel. But what she didn't know until she saw me come to a stop and on which side I was stopped, she didn't know what was coming after the jump. Okay, so she's known this whole time here, jump. And now as she approaches the takeoff and she sees me moving away from her, she knows how to take the jump, which is as a wrap. She knows to turn to the right, and she has a very good idea that she's going to be chasing me back toward the path that she came on. And in this case, the only obstacle there is the dog walk, so it's very obvious to her. So the timing is obstacle before. Okay? So how do you set a line for your dog? You're going to need to cue them. This is where everyone's got a different answer, a different handling maneuver. But basically, you want to move in the direction of the next obstacle. It's not enough to face the obstacle. And when do you need to set that line? You need to do it as the dog commits to the obstacle before. So here I'm setting the line for the dog walk. When did the dog commit to it? At the takeoff, before the obstacle, before the dog walk. Does that make sense? If you are creating your lines after your dog is landed, it's generally too late. Okay, so coming here, we have a nice straight runoff. If you are ahead of your dog on contacts, which I advise everyone to try and do, your dog will generally exit straight unless you create a turn. So here I pressure the dog's line this way, which creates a turn to the left and takes her to this jump. There's two ways to take the jump, this way, and I'm going to use this opposite arm. So that's the throttle arm, so that's going to tell her to come and take the jump this way. So I'm going to come through here, zoom out a little bit, and you can see. Now let's freeze right here. This is the takeoff point. So taking a look at this, where does the dog need to go? My motion now is this way, and so the dog is going to try and parallel and come with me that way. So there's going to be a turn here. But you notice that I didn't come to a dead stop. I just ran right through this. And so the dog's going to land in extension. They land further away, and they're going to come a little bit long. And that's exactly what I want because I'm actually taking her to the backside here. So she's going to dig in and drive. And so I set the line here as she's taking off for the jump before. So what's the line to this obstacle? I need a 270 turn. And when do I set it? It is set at the takeoff. as this dog is taking off, she already knows where to go. If I were to let her land first, yes, while she's in the air, I could go and she would turn the correct way, but she would have taken 1 or 2 strides in the wrong direction and I would have gotten a wider turn. I think that's where a lot of people are really stuck in agility right now, even high-level competitors. And so let's take a look at a couple of other examples. Let me just power through here. We have a tunnel, so we're going to freeze it right here. She's exiting the tunnel. I'm leaning forward, that's acceleration, so I want her to extend, and I want her to extend in the direction that I'm headed, which is this way. So she's clearly got to take this red jump. To the A-frame, and now...
Uh-oh, what just happened?
It's swipe. I think everyone's getting a good view of Sarah's phone here.
There we go.
Hopefully it doesn't have her pin or something important.
That's true, it would.
Okay. So we've got Gitchy on the A-frame here, and even though she's kind of far away, here's an interesting point, and it's that verbal cues, a strong verbal cue can override a lot of stuff. Here, on the contact, so when your dog gets on the down contact, that's when they should know where they're going next. And if we freeze it there on the down contact, I'm starting to slow down, but I still have a lot of momentum forward, which is telling her to take this jump right here. That jump is not the right place to go. So what I'm going to use here is an additional cue. See me patting my thigh here? Pat, pat, right there. See a little patting? Pair that with my verbal cue, which is here, here. And that's basically a side command, a stay with me command. For those of you familiar with shape-up agility, that's going to be your flappy tappy. I call it a bypass cue. You're going to stay with me. So we're going to ignore this off course. And this verbal cue plus the patting of the thigh overrides my body in this situation because I'm definitely driving forward. I'm blocking her view of the correct jump. We want to get her to a backside. So definitely verbal cues can override all of that. Let's take a look over here because I'm going to set up a rear cross. So right here, the dog needs to turn. We've used another deceleration. So the dog knows they need to turn in this direction. We've already set the line to the red jump. That line is set. It's going to be good. And it's going to be tight. But now I want to set up the turn to the teeter. And here I'm going to set it up. She's starting to gather and take off. This is where you should freeze your video on just about every jump. When your dog's front feet are in the air, the rear feet are still on the ground. And if you are not clearly showing your dog where the next line is, you're already too late. So if you need your dog to turn and you're still running this way with your dog is going to turn wide there. So this is where I want you to freeze the video. Here we get a really nice turn with the rear cross. I need to be very careful not to scroll off of this app. I'm using the Coach's Eye app, $5. And let me back up here. The teeter. We talked a little bit about lines. Here's an important one. A lot of people walk this course thinking maybe their dog was going to straighten out this line, approach the handler this way or something like that. I knew that the dog would be slicing this way. And a dog that's slicing that way, if I draw my line, is going to immediately fixate on this or even think they're coming to the backside. So if you're a dog, you're slicing this blue jump and you're thinking backside, and your handler calls you, what are you going to do? You're going to come in here and throttle it because you know the backside is not the right answer, but this is international handling. And you're guessing that they're going for a throttle. So a lot of dogs did this and they went off course here. It's really destroyed the class. And so here again, I'm going to use the stay with me, pat the thigh. And when do I start patting it? At the takeoff of the jump before. So the jump that I want to take isn't even in sight. You can't even see it. It's way, it's not even close. I'll show you when we get there. But I do need to take her off of this off course. And so I do that way back at the takeoff here. Okay, and there's the jump. So you can see how far away this jump is and how deadly this off course is right here. Okay, and then the same trap again. Multiple off-course jumps, and where do the dogs need to go? They need to go to the weave poles. So exact same thing. You have to set this line. Once the dog is in and weaving, I'm going to come around. And again, as the dog is exiting this one, She already knows what's next. I'm looking over my left shoulder. It's a blind cross. So she's going to come to my left and race for whatever's in front of me where I'm running full speed. That's going to be this tunnel. Now watch. Right before she goes into the tunnel, what's the last thing she sees? I'm no longer heading this way. I've set a new line. My line is this way, and she can see that. So what is she going to do after the tunnel? Well, I'll tell you, a lot of dogs went this way. Some dogs even took the back side over here. Let's see what Gitchy does. We get an immediate great tight turn here, and she's able to locate me quickly and take the jump the correct way because we've set that line. Slight push, and we finish out this run. Okay, so that was Gitchy. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking your dog isn't Gitchy and you're not me. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at 2 runs from one of our Bad Dog Agility Academy VIP members. And Joyce has graciously agreed to let me analyze 2 of her runs by her collie who's named Carson. Carson is 3 years and 2 months old. Joyce does some AKC. He jumps 20-inch preferred. He also does some CPE. He's done, I think, 2 UKC trials and a UKI trial as well. He's got some trick titles. He started therapy work this month. He does scent work. You know, this is a really busy dog. He just started trialing in January, and he's already gotten to excellent. And Joyce knows his weak areas are weaves and his tendency to fly off contacts. And that really has a big effect on our handling. And that's the third thing I wanted you to learn tonight, how contact obstacle performance can affect your dog's lines. And so what I have here is 2 runs by Carson. And so what I think what I want to do here is let them play. Let me see if we can get this going here. Now, I'm not sure that you're going to be able to hear the audio. So what I'm going to do is scroll forward here, give you a little taste of Carson on a jumper's course here. They're jumping 20-inch preferred. Let me zoom out and get a better view here. And this was their very first excellent cue. So this was a really nice run for them. And here's his big problem, the weaves, but he's able to get the entry first try, stay in them and finish them. Very exciting. And she's gonna run it out here. So really, really great run. You see how excited and happy Joyce is there. And now I'm gonna show you this run here. This is a standard run. And this one, okay, there's the audio. She opens with a beautiful rear cross. Everything's going really well. We get to the A-frame. See, she got a little bobble there to the tire. Panel jump. Almost takes the teeter there. Has to go to the tunnel. Gets him onto the dog walk here. Flies off the dog walk. Now remember, we already knew that Carson's contacts are not that great right now. It's something that we're working on. And there it looks like Carson may have been headed for the judge. Here they're going to miss some weave pulls. She's going to get him in here, but he's not going to be able to stay in. He's going to pop out here near the end. Joyce is going to choose to go on, kind of gather herself here, put in a rear cross. Here we have a turn the wrong way. And then he's going to finish out here. So what I want to do is go all the way back. So I'm going to go all the way back to that jumper's run. And the reason I'm going to do that is because there's a lot of really great stuff there. So when people look at these 2 performances, you know, a lot of things might go through your mind. One obvious thing will be the contacts. But someone might say, well, you know, maybe the dog does better with front crosses than rear crosses. Maybe there was something about a male judge. You know, maybe the dog was just distracted that day. But here, I want you to see what a powerful impact your handling and setting these lines can have on your dog. So right off the bat here, I want to do the same thing for Joyce. I'm going to hold her to the same standard that I hold myself. And we do this for, you know, all of our VIP members. It doesn't matter whose video I'm looking at. I'm going to look at the same things here. And this is a beautiful rear cross. On rear crosses, I like to freeze when the dog is directly over the bar. And has the handler cut behind enough to make sure that the dog is going to turn the correct way instead of spinning the wrong way. So that's one spot. She does a very nice job here. Races to catch up. And you can see here at the takeoff point, here's the takeoff point, the handler is leaning forward, taking big steps, running really fast. This is pure acceleration. So I know the dog needs to go straight. No one's going to see this and think, oh, the dog's supposed to wrap next. The line has been very well set. So here we have the slight turn to the A-frame, and now we have our first problem. We have a fly off here of the A-frame. It looks like the dog may have actually touched the yellow, so it's legal. But to help the dog, the handler did something that all of us have done at some point in our careers. I know I did it with my dog. We slow down, we bend down, we try and point to a spot on the ground as if the dog would believe that we have somehow snuck in food and put it there. And in doing that, we fall behind. So you can see that Joyce is here, but look where Carson is going to end up. Carson's going to end up ahead of her. And when your dog gets ahead of you, they always, or generally, look back at you. They curl back. This line is no longer the line that she walked through, that she imagined during the walkthrough. So now her dog is facing her. She needs the dog to go this way, but the line has been altered. And it's altered because she fell behind in order to try and manage that contact. Here, though, she is able to get the dog over the jump and get the dog over the tire. Right here, perfect spot. The dog's front feet are lifting off and the handler is driving forward. This tells me the next obstacle should be directly in front of the dog. There's no turn after the tire. And that's the case. So she did it perfectly. Here, it looks like, let's zoom in here. This is the takeoff point for the panel. You see this? Here, I can see Joyce's side and some of her chest. And right here at this moment, now I don't see her chest anymore. I see her back, side and back. Okay, so she's made a rotation. She's turning. She's turning right as the dog's taking off. So in my mind, not knowing what comes next on the course, I'm expecting a turn. To me, this looks like a turn is coming after. That is the line Joyce has set. She has set a turn after this panel. That's what the dog thinks. And look, there's an obstacle right there. Okay, it makes perfect sense. Me and the dog, we're both going to take this teeter. But it turns out the teeter is not the right obstacle, right? So that inadvertent turn creates the head check, and now the stride checking, the confusion, and now the loss of speed as she tries to get the dog into the tunnel here. And so that's why when you think about, am I setting this line right? You need to be moving in the direction of the correct obstacle, not incorrect ones, and you want to be doing it right as the dog is moving into the takeoff zone. That's the ideal time to do it. Contacts, when the teeters are moving down, when you're on the down plank of the A-frame or the dog walk, you want to be moving in the new direction. So here we get the bang. She could leave a little bit sooner. I think this is okay. And now she does a really nice job here. So this is her good turn. And you can see that at the takeoff point, again, freeze at the takeoff point. She is not going this way anymore. She is clearly turning. So the dog is going to parallel her and turn toward the dog walk. And that's why you get a good turn here. Here we get another fly off. And now I want you to watch what happens off the table. Okay? Joyce thinks she is setting a line from table to the weave poles. That's what it looks like to her. But if we take a look here very closely, and I'm not sure why, but it is absolutely chopped off the bottom half of her body. Let me see if I can move this up. No, I cannot. So we are not in my iPad. All right, that's okay. You'll see that she takes a strong step forward. And it's that step forward that sets the line. So the dog moves in this direction. So the dog was not going to visit the judge. The dog thought, maybe we're taking the panel over here. And that's what happened there. And so she's able to get the dog back. And so on and so forth. Now, Sarah, did I already review the jumper's run?
No.
Okay. So I did not go back quite far enough. Okay, so we started with this one. I want to take you to the jumper's run. And show you basically just a bunch of good stuff. First is this front cross here. You can see you want to freeze all your front crosses at the takeoff point. How much of your front cross is done? As long as you start it before they take off, the dog generally knows the turn is coming. And if you finish it and step in the right direction as your dog lands, which she does here in just 4 steps, the dog's going to have a tight turn. Otherwise, they're going to turn a little bit wide. Doesn't matter how fast or athletic the dog or handler is. Here, take a look. The dog is taking off, but the dog's taking off this way on the slice. Remember, I want you to imagine which way your dog is slicing the jump, but the handler is not moving that way anymore. The handler is now moving this way. So the dog knows exactly where to go. Handler has set the correct line. Here's a beautiful turn. Same thing again here. We're approaching. Here's a slice. But the handler is not moving that way. The handler is moving this way. So the dog is going to parallel right here and turn toward the next correct obstacle. And so on and so forth. Here we're going to go for another front cross. And take a look. Handler is into the rotation. The dog is not yet taken off. So right here, front feet are in the air. So this is one of the things that I really want to hammer home tonight. When you people are reviewing your video, whether you're using Coach's Eye YouTube, looking at it with your instructor, freeze it right here when your dog's front feet are taking off, the rear feet are still on the ground. Have you started your move? When your dog lands, are you headed in the direction that you want to be headed? This one she could have done maybe a little bit earlier, but it's still pretty good. Turn is not bad at all. Again, the dog is slicing this way. She turns this way, and that's going to pull. I think these are all really good examples of well-timed cues. Joyce is properly setting the line. She's moving in the direction of the next obstacle, and she's doing it at just the right time. And so it's no coincidence to me that this dog is having a great run. And you can see that when she sets the line late, we get confusion. We get wide turns. We get off courses. And here she's just going to run it out and finish the course. So this is her great run. And the other thing was the contact obstacles. And that's why it's really important to be able to work on the contact obstacles so you don't have to manage them. That very thing happened to me, challenge around with my 16-inch Border Collie, and she took the off-course tire. I turned, she went straight, right? I set the wrong line, and it's because I was falling behind, had to manage it. The exact same thing that Carson did to Joyce on this course, my Border Collie did to me in the Challenger round at the National Agility Championship. So this is something that plagues all handlers at all levels, all dogs, all different kind of levels and abilities. Okay, so we've reviewed Carson here now, and when I look at this is what I'm going to tell Joyce, who hopefully is watching now. If she's not watching now, she will be watching later. Number one, she already knows it's going to be work on your contacts, right? This is the obvious one. She's already told you that they're not very good with the contacts. But now you, the viewers, you understand how weakness in one area can cause a problem later, right? Even if it's 1, 2, or 3 obstacles later. You can't set the line that you want to set for your dog. You can't show them what you want to show them. And the second thing is get comfortable imagining in your mind your dog's takeoff point and angle over every jump, every obstacle. You should be able to draw a circle on a course map or visualize it as you're walking the course. My dog is going to take off from here. This is where they're going to last touch the dirt. This is the angle that their body will be relative to the jump. And you're going to do that same thing again for the landing point, because some dogs will actually turn over the bar, right? So they take off at one angle over the bar, and then when they land, they're kind of on another angle. Much more so with Border Collies and Benny breeds, much less so with, say, Dobermans and Golden Retrievers. You're just not going to see that a lot. Goldens think they can do it. They try to bend over the bar, and then you get dropped bars. But that's the advice that I'm going to give to her. The advice is not going to be, well, you should be doing all front crosses. Well, you should try this move or that move. Yes, there's some of that. Yes, there's handling work to be done. But if Joyce is able to understand this concept, she's going to radically change the way she approaches handling and the way she walks courses and the way she thinks about her dog and who's responsible for creating these lines. The handler provides the direction, the dog just does whatever we tell them to. All right, so I think we're just about ready to wrap up here. Joyce is a VIP member, which means we'll keep working on this together. You know, she gets to post videos and questions to our Facebook group, privately by email. She gets feedback from either me, Sarah, Jennifer Crank. You know, we open the VIP to new members just once a year, and that once a year starts tomorrow. Sarah wanted me to let you know tomorrow. So if you're interested, Sarah says you can type VIP in the Facebook comments and get more information. All right, I do want to get to some questions. Let me just give you the summary. In summary, my goal for this Facebook Live was for all of you to learn these 3 things. Number 1, how do you set a line for your dog? The answer is you move in the direction of the next obstacle. It seems so obvious, but sometimes we just don't do that. When do you need to set that line? Because it matters. We need to do it when the dog is committing to the obstacle before. Okay, if your dog is already landing, it's generally too late. Okay, so before they take the obstacle, before. And number 3, how can contact obstacle performances affect your dog's line? In general, dogs are going to curl toward you as you fall behind to bend over or slow down to try and get them to hit that yellow. So if your contacts aren't very good and you don't have the ability to be forward of your dog is going to tend to curl towards you, and what that's going to do is create weird, unexpected lines that you weren't really anticipating. So you want to build that into your walkthrough if you're still currently working on your contacts. All right, that's all I've got for you. Questions? Are there questions?
Yes, there's one. Here, let me just grab the mic real quick, and I will read this question. And the question is from Jerry Gardner. Do you use a verbal while the dog is in the tunnel so they know where you are?
Absolutely. Apparently, I'm not very good at this because Sarah's always nagging at me to do this in practice. And so basically, as soon as the dog goes into the tunnel, you can be calling their name. I think there's a little bit of echoing, and they're in the tunnel for such a brief amount of time, but it really helps. They're able to locate you more quickly if you start saying their name basically as soon as they go in.
And then Lorna just made the point that when you were talking about the contacts, that if they don't curl back, they disappear over the wrong obstacle. And that's absolutely true. It's really 2 sides of the same coin. It's a lack of information, and it depends on the personality of the dog. So dogs that want to be right are going to curl back and check in and look for more information. Dogs that are a little bit more concerned with going fast are going to say, I don't have the information I need, and so I'm going to guess right now because wherever I'm going there fast, and if you're not telling me, I'm choosing on my own. So absolutely, 2 sides of the same coin there.
Okay, and Holly wants to know, she was a little unclear. I think actually she wrote this question before this started, so hopefully we've already answered it. But is the line kind of just, if you draw a dot to dot kind of line from one obstacle to another, is that the line? No, it's your dog's actual path that they take. So for the most part, there's always going to be a little bit of a curve to it. If you and I were running around a racetrack, every time we started to hit a curve, we have to slow down a little bit. And that's why if you have to run 100 yards, but you have to turn twice, your time is going to be slower than if you ran 100 yards, but got to do it in a straight line. Right? So that's why we want to straighten out lines as much as possible.
All right, I think that's all of the questions that we have.
If anybody comes up with other questions after, or you're watching on the replay, go ahead and put your questions in. We're obviously going to come behind and make sure that all of your questions get answered. Thank you very much for joining us.
Happy training.